Hello and welcome to my guide to using Starsector's Doom-class phase cruiser. The Doom is, in my opinion, one of the best and most fun ships to use as a personal flagship in the game. It's a solid, devious close-in fighter in everything from solo to large fleets. Besides being a phase ship, it has a unique ship system, the Mine Strike. Using it, you can teleport fairly high damage AoE mines that explode either on contact or after a few seconds. Even better, you're able to use it while phased. We'll talk more about the mines in a minute. The Doom is the heaviest phase ship in the base, non-modded Starsector game. As you may know, while phased, your frame of reference runs faster than non-phased ships. What this means in practical terms is that everything outside your ship and other phased ships will appear to be moving in slow motion, while your weapons and ship system will cycle in what to you is normal time. Thus, you're able to refire your weapons and use your ship systems more often than non-phased ships using the same weapons and systems would be able to otherwise. We're going to construct what I call the Phase Lancer build. Now, you'll notice that I'm using a max level character. Don't worry, that doesn't require it all to fit the Doom out properly. It'll mostly just mean that you get to add extra hull modification and some more capacitors or vents. So let's get started. First, the weapons. Now, you might have your own preference for some of these, but I'll explain why each one in particular is useful for this build. These 4 energy slots on the perimeter of the ship, we're going to drop burst PD lasers into. Why burst PD lasers rather than plain PD or LRPD? Phasing. Since you can only use your weapons while you're out of phase cloak, you want to maximize the amount of damage that you're doing while you're in real space, including with your point defense weapons. That continues on to our choice in medium energy weapons. I really like the Phase Lance, and I think the name is no coincidence. They pair excellently with phase ships, providing a quick burst of damage before a relatively long recharge. Nearly perfect timing for the delay between uncloaking and recloaking. The Phase Lances can be considered our primary weapon on this build. But our primary finisher? Typhoon Reaper torpedo launchers. With expanded missile racks, we've got 10 shots per launcher. Each of these Reaper torpedoes does 4,000 explosive damage. Now for these 4 small universal slots. I consider these to be my secondary support weapons. There's a few choices we can make here, but I've found I really appreciate the versatility of a pair of Atropos and a pair of Sabo SRMs, so we're going to go ahead and add those now. Now, we don't need the stopping power of the Typhoon Reapers for every ship, and these can also add a ton of damage to your Typhoon salvo in a pinch. For some shield killing power, I like these Sabo SRMs to do the trick. They might not do a lot by themselves, but on a pressured ship, and in the Doom you can really put the pressure on and not let up, they can be that extra bit of extra flux on their shields to overload them. Now, these are universal slots, so there's a lot of options there, including things like antimatter blasters, but I like those missiles for their low OP cost and the benefit we're already getting from the expanded missile racks that we're about to add. We'll just quickly group these up. Auto should do the trick. And that looks about right to me. I'm going to switch the position of some of these, though. So let's no alternating on group 1. Now for the 2 hull mods that are key to this build, the expanded missile racks, which double our missile ammo count in each launcher, and the resistant flux conduits, which provide a 50% resistance to EMP damage effects, as well as increasing our flux venting rate by 25%. Both of these are important, but the EMP resistance is the more situational of the two. Now, if your character is at a higher level and you've got some extra OP, consider adding other hull mods depending on your playstyle. Now, personally, I like hardened subsystems, which help offset the effects of the phase ship's delicate machinery permanent hull mod, and advanced optics, which extend the phase lance range by a useful 200 units. So I'm going to go ahead and add those now. And now, the Doom in its base form has some great capacitors and flux vents, but it's always useful to add more. Now, unlike most ships, I find that phase ships benefit far more from additional capacitors than additional vents, as long as your base flux dissipation level is high enough to handle using your weapons. Keep in mind that the Mine Strike also has an energy cost that adds up with repeated use. So So we're going to add capacitors and vents in a 2-to-1 ratio. With certain skills on your character, you're also going to be increasing your own flux dissipation rate, venting rate, and decreasing phase cloak flux buildup. You can actually see that my character does that here. So we'll just add these in pretty evenly. Now, my character obviously has a lot of room to fit this stuff with. So we could do more capacitors and vents. We could do another ship system. Let's go ahead and add another ship system. A few things we can do here. Armored weapon mounts, advanced turret gyros. Let's go ahead and do the armored weapon mounts. A little bit more, and there we go. Now, if you have a more conservative playstyle, you may want to drop those armored weapon mounts and add some more capacitors or vents. This could be a little bit sketchy the way we're going in, but because my character has these bonuses to clock floaks, probably not too bad. Alright, let's go ahead and run a simulation. So here we are on our Doom, and let's take a quick look at our weapons, our ranges, arcs, and the Mind Strike. Now, of course, I have the advanced weapon optics on this Doom, so my phase lances have that nice little range bonus. Let's see what happens when we shoot this asteroid here. You can also see the long delay. So phase lances, if you haven't used them much before, are kind of an interesting beam weapon. When you start activating them, their turn rate drastically decreases, but always remember, you can use your ship to turn as well. And they're only on for a brief moment before they recharge for a while. Okay, we've got our Reaper launchers. And that, of course, doesn't turn at all. Just goes straight forward. Our Atropos torpedoes, which same, but these are guided. And the Sabor SRMs, which are also, they're semi-guided, and they just fire straight ahead. And then, of course, which we'll never use manually, our PD lasers. Of course, on our PD lasers, we can see the firing arcs, and that's how they fire. Okay, so now the Mind Teleporter. Let's go ahead and take a look at this Mind Teleporter. So, boop, and one there, and one there. Alright, so Mind Teleporter teleports a mine to pretty much where you are clicking. And it recharges pretty quick too, if you look at our ship system down there. Only takes a few seconds to recharge, and you can get a nice little field of mines that will show up before they explode. Alright, now that we've seen how these work mechanically, let's start spawning in some enemies. Now, keep in mind these are all basic ships without an officer running them, so don't expect much from the AI, and keep in mind there's no character levels boosting the performance of the ships either. So, it's still going to be a useful demonstration. Alright. So, of course, we're phase cloaking here, and you can see how time slows down a bit. It'll be more obvious when ships are here. Unphase cloak, and there they are. Now, we're just going to take some of these out quickly with the mines. Watch how I do this. Drop a mine in front of the way he's going. Another mine, he barely avoided that one, but he can't avoid that one. Oh, he destroyed it. Okay. 2 mines, he explodes. Alright, now of course we can do that while cloaked, and we have phase lances as well. So when we cloak, you can much more obviously see what's happening with the time dilation. We're still moving nice and quick, but these guys are moving in slow motion. I'm going to show you a trick with these mines. Let's hem him in, make him use his point defense. In the meantime, I can phase lances, fade right back out. Look how much he's damaged. And of course, he's just wasting his flux shooting those mines. While the real danger is with phase lance. Vent our flux. We have a lot of armor on this ship, so unless they're ready with torpedoes, they're not going to do much. And I noticed that guy did not have a torpedo, so... See this hound over here? Let's drop a mine in front of him. Oh, barely avoided that. But can he avoid that one? It doesn't look like it. Which means we can go right in for the kill. Okay. No problem. Let's clear the rest of these out. There we've got a wolf class. He's got a little phase teleporter. Not too worried about that. Just force him to use it. Because of our time dilation, our mines, of course, recharge nice and quick for us, whereas he's moving in slow motion. So we can just force all of his uses out while he backs away from us. Look at that. And you can't avoid that for long. Kaboom. And now these lashers shouldn't be too big a deal. None of these lashers have torpedoes, so I'm not really going to be very careful here. Quickly, look at that flux level. Look how quick it builds up from those phase lances. Now that's a good demonstration right there of the AoE effect of those mines. Notice how much it did even from a distance there. How much it kept his flux levels up. That means I can just burn right through the phase again. Alright. I'm going to clean these up and we're going to skip ahead to the next fight. Now let's see how we can handle a phase-skipping ship like the Medusa. We outmassed this ship by a lot. It's a cruiser versus a destroyer, but it's still a useful demonstration. Watch how I hem the enemy in with my mines, forcing out the phase skips as before on that wolf, and keeping a continual pressure on them to build toward overload. This isn't going to take very long. Drop a mine in front of him. Drop some mines around him, and watch what happens. Now we're just going to pop out a cloak occasionally to put pressure on him with our phase lances. Look at that, 2 skips already baited out. There's a third. Watch how we keep dropping mines near him, and look at that, direct hit on that mine. He dropped his shields. He's in some real trouble now. And we can kind of direct where he goes with those mines, and it takes him time to slow down. Now, that's an important note with some of these larger ships, is they do have a bit of momentum, and you can use that to your advantage. Small ships might be able to turn on a dime and accelerate away, but larger ships, especially if they're a little bit damaged and they're hemmed in by other enemies, you watch where they're going, drop some mines, especially if they're running away from you, and just like that, you create a nice little fence. And boom, there goes that Medusa class. Alright, let's try something else. This time we're actually going to use our torpedoes on this Dominator class heavy assault. Now, once again, this is going to be a lot easier than you may think. We go up, he's using his burn drive, we drop several mines in front of him, and then we drop some mines behind him. Now watch what we're going to do. We phase cloak, and we can take advantage of our increased maneuverability. You go right through him, hold down shift if you're not used to using this, that makes your ship try to just automatically point wherever your mouse cursor is. We swing around, and watch this. Uncloak, phase lance, torpedoes. That is a next to dead Dominator. He now has a flame out, he's going nowhere, and we can simply use our phase lances to finish him off. You can do this in pretty big fights, you just have to watch your back. If the enemy fleet has a lot of defenders, you're obviously not going to just easily get behind a Dominator like this. But they do tend to overextend because of those burn drives. So you may find a bit of luck there when they overextend. Let's take a look at how we handle fighters with the Doom. The answer is really, really well. The Mine Strike is a particularly nasty anti-fighter and bomber screen. The real trick, again, is watching where they're going and predicting where they're going to appear, try to charge through your mines. You can take out entire wings due to the AoE. Watch this. Nice precise placement. Now you're not always going to get lucky, especially for broadswords. But you don't always need a lot of luck. You have plenty of mines. And make them waste their torpedoes, which they do. And then Astral has now teleported his daggers back. That's not a big deal. That gives us a bit of a chance to rest and recover. We're going to dodge those once again, and we're going to toss a few mines in the middle of their group. Look at that. That is a lot of dead dagger bombers. Now, this is not going to be a very hard fight. An Astral's one hell of a ship. But when you can teleport mines into the middle of all their fighters and destroy the entire wing, well, you can see what's happening there. We just caused a flame out with a mine. We're going to go ahead and keep rotating around him. Dump our flux. And then we're going to prevent him from doing the same. So notice now what happens when I'm clicking on the Astral and using my ship system. The bigger the ship is, the bigger this bounding box is around it where you can't teleport mines into very precisely. You'll notice if I choose somewhere outside, even like this, it still may not get super close. Doesn't matter. What we're doing. We're now behind him. He's having a real hard time here. And that was his big mistake. He vented. And that's how you kill an Astral.